While we were in La Paz, we visited Motorcycle Tours Bolivia, and they gave us a little bit of information about the road to, the road south towards Uyuni. They advised to go through Potosi first rather than the direct route to Uyuni, because that's a really kind of crummy, lousy, not well maintained dirt road. South along the Ruta Nacional 1 was pretty easy, uneventful, not particularly scenic, and actually kind of slow going because a lot of it's under construction. As we neared the town of Chayapata, there's this gorgeous lake called Lago Poopo, and that's where it really starts to get a lot more scenic, and the ride gets much more pleasant. But at Chayapata, there were a couple of residenciales, or kind of like
there were like
guest
three
houses,
of them.
But no one was answering the doors, and nothing was opening up for us. So we continued on following a river just south of the lake and the town, and we just kind of pulled off into some farm area beside the river and
camped for the night.
And it was really lovely.
Yeah, it was nice.
We continued on the Ruta Nacional 1 to Potosi, and that was just much more beautiful riding at that point. And then from Potosi to Uyuni was also gorgeous riding through the mountains. Uyuni is kind of like a tourist destination, like an oasis beside the salt flats of Uyuni, and that's what we had gone there for. To enter the salt flat, we first had to go, 20-30 kilometers north to a town called Colchani, and that's actually the entrance to the salt flats. At first we saw a lot of jeeps that were taking tourists over the salt flats, and at the entrance there, it's still quite wet and puddly.
It was a bit muddy.
From the rainy season, so you get a lot of salt water kicking up on the bike. Once you get past that first area, the salt flats are hard and flat, and it's just excellent smooth riding. And I think we hit 100, 110, 120 kilometers an hour. You're just riding through this vast emptiness. It's just gorgeous.
And there's only some jeep tracks that you can follow through. Otherwise, you can just make your own path.
About 80 kilometers west through the salt flats, there's this kind of hill or mountain that rises up out of the salt, and it's called Isla Inca Huasi.
Yeah, it's like a picnic area. It's where all the tours will come, and then they'll have a little snack or something, and there's a place where you can buy some food. But yeah, we hiked up to the top of the little mountain that they have, and we were able to take some pictures of our bikes on the salt flats. It was pretty cool. So we still had about another 50 kilometers to go in the salt flat until we reached like the first little towns. But
this was to the south.
To the south. Yeah. But there was like a good section of about maybe 10 kilometers that the salt flats were covered in water. It had about, I don't know what, 10 centimeters?
Yeah, the parts it was actually rather deep.
Yeah.
Fortunately, underneath the salt is still very firm.
Yeah.
So the riding is fine, but you're kicking up tons of salt water onto the bike. But it's just gorgeous because it all looks like a mirror.
Yeah. So after we exited the salt flat, about 20 kilometers away, we got into this little town in Colchaca, and we asked around and we found this great salt hotel. It was absolutely beautiful. We asked the people if they had a lot of tourists, and they said, yeah, the tour groups come. So when we were there were three big tour groups, or four big tour groups that came. But it was great. We had our own little room, and it was all made of salt bricks. It was beautiful.
Yeah, the whole thing was made of salt. There was a salt mural and salt nightstands.
That's right.
And the bed frame was salt. Yeah, it was gorgeous. At the Salt Hotel in Colchaca, we were able to wash the bikes. They had a hose that they let us use, and that was essential because the
Greg
bikes
was like
were
fanatical about this.
Oh, they were covered in salt. From Colchaca, it was about 200 kilometers to the border with Chile. And it was supposed to be a good dirt road that we were to follow, but a lot of it we were just kind of making tracks over
another
dirt
salt
and
flat.
another salt flat. So it was kind of more off-road adventure without exactly knowing where we were going, except knowing that we had to go southwest, and that's what the GPS was telling us we were doing. We got to the Bolivia-Chile border at a town called Avaroa in Bolivia, and it's really in the middle of nowhere. There's a train kind of depot there, there's a customs and immigration, but it's just a dusty, middle of nowhere spot. Eventually a bus came through with some tourists, but when we got there, the immigration office was closed, and we were informed that the immigration officer had gone to lunch, of course. And just as the immigration officer had gone to lunch, now the customs officer told us he was going to lunch. So we went to lunch, and we had our first taste of llama.
Llama, yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was chewy, like the alpaca, but it was
tasty.
It was tasty.
Yeah.
On the Chilean side of the border at Uyuni, everything was efficient,
sailing.
smooth. Papers were stamped, and we were done. The only issue was that we were getting low on gas. We've been going a long time on dirt and salt and everything, but now we really needed gas. And I randomly in the town kind of pulled someone over and asked him if he knew where we could get gas. And he said, yeah, I sell it. So we were able to get the gas we needed, and it was about 200 kilometers to the city of Calama, and between Uyuni and Calama there was no gas station, so this was critical. The road to Calama was kind of maybe half tarmac, half dirt.
They told us that it was a quarter dirt and 3/4 tarmac, but definitely not the case.
Yeah, and even the tarmac areas were kind of broken up, and I mean it was a blast, but there were some areas of sand,
Deep
some areas
sand,
of gravel.
Yes.
One sandy uphill curve just got the best of Jess, and she went down. She kind of just lost her.
Yeah, I saw how sandy it was, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I should just stop and let Greg ride it for me. And then as I was curving, I started looking, and there was a big wall, a rock wall. Looked right at it, and then I was like,
and
oh
rode
no.
right towards it.
And
I'm
I
like,
can't turn anymore.
And I'm thinking as she's doing this, Jess, what are you doing? Just look where you want to turn. Look where you want to turn.
And I couldn't do it, and then I was just like, okay, no, I gotta stop. But I stopped, and nope, and then I just fell over.
Like flopped over.
Yeah.
Knocked the cases off the rack again. We had to deal with that. But otherwise, I mean, Jess just had a fantastic several hundred kilometers of off-road, just doing great. And this was just kind of a fluke. We spent the night in Calama.
At a very expensive hotel.
Well, things in Chile are a lot more expensive than, well, coming from Bolivia certainly, but a lot more expensive than most of the countries that we've been through in South America.
Yeah. We can normally find like a good budget hotel for maybe about $60 at like the most expensive.
$30, $40, but in Chile things are a lot more expensive. The next day from Calama, it was about 100 kilometers to San Pedro de Atacama, which is another tourist, destination because of the salt flats of Atacama, the Salar de Atacama, and all of the just amazing kind of rock
lagunas
formations.
and the flamingos and all the other things that they have.